Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking something literally all of us chase, but so few actually catch: true happiness. We're diving straight into a fascinating text called The Code of Happiness. It's written by Guy Zuifeng, the founder of Life Changing Yuan. You know, if you've ever caught yourself wondering, why doesn't my success actually feel like peace? Well, you're in the exact right place. Let's get right into it. So, right off the bat, Zuifeng hits us with this absolutely jarring paradox. I want you to picture this. On one hand, you have someone living in a shabby little hut. They're wearing simple clothes, eating coarse grains, with literally zero money to their name, but they are completely, radiantly joyful. Now, flip the script. Imagine a corporate billionaire. They're in this massive, luxurious villa, billions in the bank, surrounded by 100 bodyguards, but they are completely miserable, constantly anxious, and just dreading life. Crazy, right? Which brings us to Section 1, the Great Happiness Paradox.
We've all heard the old cliché that money can't buy happiness, right? Well, Zuifeng uses that extreme contrast we just talked about to completely redefine what a good life actually is. He argues that happiness is, quite simply, a state of consciousness where you feel totally content with the present moment. That's it. It's not your bank balance, it's not your job title, it's not your square footage. True happiness is 100% an internal state of consciousness.
So let's move on to Section 2, Cracking the Happiness Code.
If happiness is all in our consciousness, how in the world do we actually get there? Well, the text gives us a super actionable formula. It comes down to 3 non-negotiable pillars: gratitude, contentment, and cherishing. Zuifeng makes it very clear. Without a genuinely grateful heart, you're just not going to live a happy life. Without finding contentment in your current reality, happiness is basically locked away. And you have to actively cherish the people and things around you right now. These 3 things, they are the absolute ground-level prerequisites for true joy.
But of course, where there are keys, there are also locks. So what's blocking us? What's standing in the way of all this joy? It boils down to 3 main happiness blockers: ingratitude, greed, and waste. These 3 things literally choke out our ability to feel any sort of present contentment. Think about it. If you're constantly greedy for the next big thing, or you're just wasting what you already have, you physically cannot be present, and you definitely can't be content. So, where does that leave us? The real question here is, how can we actually develop this state of consciousness? How do we actively build up gratitude and contentment while dodging those heavy traps of greed and waste? Well, Zuifeng's philosophy gives us a really fascinating mechanism to do exactly that. And that brings us to Section 3, Tending Your Soul Garden. The answer, according to the text, is possessing a noble quality of life. To really wrap our heads around this, I want you to imagine your mind as a garden. Now, if you let it overgrow with weeds and poisons, and by that I mean things like comparison, competitiveness, envy, blame, resentment, arrogance, doubt, your happiness is literally choked out. It cannot survive in that soil. But if you pull those weeds, you suddenly make room for blossoms, things like truth, kindness, beauty, love, trust, peace, humility. A noble quality of life means your inner garden is totally free of those toxic weeds and absolutely bursting with these beautiful, life-giving blossoms. Which leads us to Section 4, the power of invisible wealth. As we start actually tending to this garden, pulling out the resentment, watering the sincerity, we start building up a very unique kind of wealth. The text argues that happiness actually has very little to do with material or even spiritual wealth, but everything to do with soul wealth. And there's a pretty strong warning here. People who are poor in this soul wealth, they're never going to live a truly happy life. They will just drift in a boundless ocean of sorrow. And that's true whether they're broke or if they have $1 billion and 100 bodyguards outside their door. This whole philosophy really builds up to one incredibly profound takeaway. The text states, "What determines happiness is not what we can see, hear, or touch, but what we cannot see, hear, or touch." Just let that sink in for a second. The absolute most vital component of your well-being, the actual dividing line between your suffering and your joy, is completely invisible. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought. Take a look inward. Is your invisible soul garden full of weeds, or is it blooming? Are you actively cultivating those invisible blossoms of truth and peace, or are you letting the loud, visible weeds of comparison and greed completely take over? It's a really powerful framework for checking in on our own invisible wealth. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really hope this sparks some deep reflection for you as you go out and cultivate your very own code of happiness.